The alien twins were feared until an Earthling changed everything. Raven Blackwood stared through the reinforced windows of Europa Station's linguistics lab, watching Jupiter's swirling storms in the distance. The gas giant's perpetual tempest mirrored the restlessness in her heart. 6 years of studying alien languages, and still no breakthrough in understanding the crystalline beings who had arrived 3 months ago. The station's intercom crackled. "Dr. Blackwood, your presence is requested in Observation Deck C." Director Harrison's voice carried an unusual edge of excitement. Raven gathered her neural translator and tablet, her heart racing as she made her way through the station's curved corridors. The crystalline visitors had been notably reclusive, communicating only through basic light patterns that defied conventional translation matrices. The observation deck's doors hissed open, revealing 2 towering figures that made Raven's breath catch. The crystalline twins stood 9 feet tall, their translucent bodies refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. Unlike their more opaque companions, these 2 seemed to pulse with an inner radiance. "Dr. Blackwood." Director Harrison gestured toward the twins. "Meet Lyra and Nova. They've specifically requested you." Raven approached cautiously, noting how the twins moved in perfect synchronization. Their bodies were like living prisms, catching and splitting light into rainbow cascades that danced across the deck's metal walls. "We've watched you." They spoke in unison, their voices creating harmonic resonances that made the air vibrate. "You alone seek to understand, not control." Raven's neural translator crackled and died, overwhelmed by the complexity of their communication. But somehow, she understood them perfectly. "You can speak our language?" she asked, fighting to keep her professional composure despite her racing heart. "We speak all languages," Lyra answered, her form shifting to create patterns of light that seemed to match her words. "And none," Nova added, her crystalline structure harmonizing with her sister's. Director Harrison cleared his throat. "Dr. Blackwood, the twins have expressed interest in working exclusively with you. They believe your research methods might bridge our communication gap." Raven noticed the other station personnel maintaining a careful distance. Even Harrison seemed eager to retreat. The twins' reputation for being dangerous preceded them, though no one could explain exactly why they were feared. "What makes me different?" Raven asked, meeting their prismatic eyes. "Your mind," they answered together. "It sings with possibilities." The twins moved closer, their crystalline forms casting rainbow shadows across Raven's face. Through their translucent bodies, she could see complex structures that pulsed with what appeared to be living light. "We offer knowledge," Lyra began. "But knowledge has a price," Nova finished. Before Raven could respond, the twins raised their crystalline hands in perfect synchronization. The air between them began to shimmer with patterns of light that spoke directly to her mind, bypassing language entirely. Images flooded her consciousness. Vast crystal cities floating in space, beings of pure light communicating through quantum entanglement, and something darker, a fear of difference, of evolution, of change. When the vision cleared, Raven found herself gripping the observation deck's railing, gasping. The twins watched her with an intensity that seemed to peer into her soul. What was that?" she managed to ask. "A glimpse," they answered, "of what awaits if you dare to learn." Director Harrison stepped forward, concern evident on his face. "Dr. Blackwood, are you all right? We can terminate this interaction if—" "No," Raven straightened, her scientific curiosity overriding any apprehension. "I'm fine. This is exactly what we've been waiting for. A true breakthrough in interspecies communication." The twins' bodies pulsed with approval, sending ripples of colored light across the deck. "We begin tomorrow," they declared. "Your mind has proven compatible." As they glided away, their crystalline forms seeming to merge with the starlight, Raven couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just stepped onto a path that would change not only her understanding of alien communication, but the very nature of human consciousness itself. Director Harrison placed a warning hand on her shoulder. "Be careful," Raven, the last xenolinguist who worked with crystalline beings, suffered severe neural damage. These twins, they're different from the others, more powerful, more unpredictable. Raven watched the twins' retreating forms, their light patterns leaving ghostly afterimages in her vision. "Different isn't always dangerous," she replied, though she couldn't quite convince herself. "Sometimes it's just the next step in evolution." The research chamber hummed with an otherworldly resonance as Raven approached the twins. 1 week had passed since their first encounter, and each session pushed the boundaries of what she thought possible. Lyra and Nova stood in their usual spot, their crystalline forms casting prismatic patterns across the specially designed containment area. "Your mind grows stronger," they observed in unison, their bodies pulsing with approval. "The neural pathways are adapting." Security Chief Roland Pierce watched from behind the reinforced observation window, his expression hard as granite. He'd opposed these sessions from the start, arguing that direct mental contact with the crystalline beings violated every safety protocol in the book. Raven ignored his disapproving stare, focusing instead on the gentle hum emanating from the twins. Their presence had become familiar, almost comforting, despite the warnings. "I've been practicing the light speak you taught me," she said, raising her hands to create simple patterns in the air between them. The twins' crystalline forms shimmered with what she now recognized as amusement. So primitive, Lyra's voice chimed, like watching a child draw with starlight. "But promising," Nova added, her structure shifting to create more complex patterns that danced around Raven's attempts. The real breakthrough came during their quantum resonance exercises. Raven sat cross-legged between the twins, their crystalline forms creating a triangle of light. As they began the now familiar harmonic humming, something shifted in her perception. Suddenly, she wasn't just seeing their light patterns, she was feeling them, understanding them on a level that transcended normal consciousness. Their thoughts flowed into her mind like liquid crystal, carrying meanings that normal language couldn't express. "Remarkable," they sang together, their joy manifesting as pulses of rainbow light. "Your neural architecture is evolving faster than any human we've encountered." The moment was shattered by Pierce's voice over the intercom. "Dr. Blackwood, your vital signs are showing dangerous fluctuations. Terminate the session immediately." Raven opened her eyes, frustrated by the interruption. "I'm fine, Roland. These readings are normal for deep resonance work." "Normal?" Pierce's voice carried barely contained anger. "There's nothing normal about what's happening to you. Your brainwave patterns are completely altered. The medical team is detecting crystalline formations in your frontal lobe." The twins moved protectively closer to Raven, their forms casting a shield of light around her. "The changes are natural," they'd assured her. "Your species fears what it doesn't understand." Pierce entered the chamber, flanked by 2 security officers. "This ends now. Dr. Blackwood, you're to report to medical for a full evaluation. These beams are affecting your judgment." Raven stood her ground, feeling the twins' support flowing through their newly formed connection. "You don't understand what we're achieving here. They're not just teaching me their language. They're showing me new ways of thinking, of perceiving reality itself." "That's exactly what concerns us," Pierce countered, taking a step forward. "The neural changes, the crystalline growths, your increasing dependency on their presence. The committee is suspending your research pending a full investigation." The twins' forms pulsed with sudden intensity, their light patterns expressing concepts of protection and defiance. The security officers reached for their pulse weapons, but Raven stepped between them. "Stop," she commanded, surprising herself with the authority in her voice. "If you try to separate us now, you'll lose any chance of understanding what's really happening here." Through their connection, Raven felt the twins' approval and something else, a hint of their true purpose, a glimpse of possibilities that made her head spin. They weren't just teaching her. They were preparing her for something more. "Chief Pierce," she said, forcing calm into her voice, "give me 48 hours. Let me prove that these changes aren't harmful. There's something bigger happening here than anyone realizes. Pierce studied her for a long moment, his concern evident beneath his professional exterior. 24 hours, he finally conceded. But if the medical team detects any further anomalies, I'm shutting this down permanently. As the security team withdrew, Raven turned back to the twins. Their crystalline forms had dimmed slightly, but their presence in her mind remained strong. Time grows short, they communicated silently. You must be ready for what comes next. Ready for what? Raven asked, both excited and apprehensive. Their response came in a surge of images and emotions that left her gasping. Vast networks of crystalline minds linked across space, human consciousness evolving beyond its biological limits, and a coming challenge that would test the boundaries between their species. Rest now, they hummed soothingly. Tomorrow, we show you why we chose you, why you're different from the others. Tomorrow, you begin to understand what you're becoming. That night, as Raven lay in her quarters, she could feel the crystalline formations in her brain pulsing in rhythm with her thoughts. Pierce was right about one thing. She was changing. But as she drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the gentle hum of her evolving consciousness, she couldn't bring herself to fear it. In the darkness of space, Europa Station continued its orbit around Jupiter, unaware that within its walls, the next step in human evolution was taking form, guided by two beings of living crystal who saw in one human the potential to bridge the gap between their worlds. Raven's reflection in the medical bay's mirror barely looked human anymore. Crystalline patterns traced delicate fractals across her skin, and her eyes held an inner light that pulsed in rhythm with her thoughts. The 24-hour deadline was approaching, and she knew Pierce would never understand what the scans would reveal. The twins materialized beside her, their forms somehow more solid than before. Through their strengthening bond, she felt their concern, their urgency, and beneath it all, their guilt. It's time you knew everything. Lyra's voice resonated through Raven's mind. Why we chose you, Nova completed, their shared consciousness making words almost unnecessary. The medical bay's lights dimmed as the twins began their story, their crystalline forms projecting images that surrounded Raven in a cocoon of living memory. She saw their homeworld, Crystallos, a planet of pure energy where beams of living crystal danced through quantum fields. We were not always feared, they explained, their memories showing a younger version of themselves, celebrated for their unique ability to form deep connections with other species. We were explorers, bridging the gap between crystalline consciousness and organic minds. The scene shifted, darkening. Raven watched as the Crystallos Council, beings of pure light and geometric perfection, turned against the twins. They feared our evolution. Lyra's voice carried ancient pain. Said we were corrupting the purity of our race, Nova added, showing memories of their exile, cast out among the stars. But there was more. Through their deepening connection, Raven felt the truth they'd been hiding. The twins hadn't randomly chosen Europa Station. They'd been searching for someone specific, a human with the right neural architecture, someone whose mind could survive the transformation they offered. The crystalline growths, Raven whispered, understanding dawning. You're not just teaching me your language. You're helping you evolve. They confirmed in unison. Your species stands at a crossroads. Some, like you, are ready to transcend their biological limitations. The images shifted again, showing other attempts, other humans who had tried to bridge the gap. Raven watched in horror as their minds fractured, unable to handle the crystalline integration. Why am I different? Your neural patterns, Lyra explained, her form pulsing with excitement. They naturally resonate with crystalline frequencies. 1 in a million, Nova added. A bridge between worlds. The medical bay sensors began beeping frantically as Raven's transformation accelerated. The crystalline structures in her brain were growing, reshaping her consciousness in ways that both thrilled and terrified her. Through the window, she saw Pierce and his security team approaching, drawn by the sensor alerts. Time was running out. The council was wrong about us. The twins communicated urgently. "We're not corrupting evolution. We're guiding it. But we need you to prove it." "How?" Raven asked, even as she felt her mind expanding, touching quantum fields she'd never known existed. The twins moved closer, their forms beginning to merge with the crystalline patterns on her skin. "Let us complete the transformation. Become what you were meant to be. The first of a new species, neither human nor crystalline, but something more." Pierce's override code beeped at the door. In seconds, they would burst in, trying to save her from what they couldn't understand. "The process is already too far advanced," the twins warned. "Stopping now would shatter your mind. Choose quickly." Raven looked at her reflection one last time, seeing not what she was leaving behind, but what she might become. The door slid open as Pierce and his team entered, pulse weapons raised. "Step away from her," Pierce commanded the twins, but his voice seemed to come from a great distance. Europa Station had become a crucible of change. In the 3 days since Raven's transformation, the entire facility hummed with an energy that defied conventional science. The medical bay, now converted into a containment chamber, pulsed with quantum frequencies as researchers struggled to understand what she had become. Raven floated in the center of the chamber, her crystalline form shifting between solid and ethereal states. The twins' consciousness flowed through her transformed mind, their three-way existence creating patterns of thought that rewrote the laws of physics. "They fear what they cannot control." Lyra's voice resonated through their shared consciousness. "As all species fear evolution," Nova added, their combined awareness expanding beyond the station's walls. Pierce stood at the observation window, surrounded by Earth's highest-ranking scientists and military officials. Their instruments recorded impossible readings as Raven's new form generated quantum fields that shouldn't exist in normal space. "She's still in there," Pierce argued with Admiral Chen, who had arrived with orders to neutralize what Earth Command saw as a threat. "I've known Raven for years. She's not lost. She's transcended." Through the quantum fields, Raven sensed their fear, their wonder, and their desperate need to understand. She approached the window, her crystalline form casting rainbow refractions across their faces. "I am still Raven." She spoke with 3 harmonizing voices. "But I am also more. The twins didn't destroy my humanity. They helped it evolve." The Admiral's face hardened. "That's exactly what concerns us, Doctor. Your transformation is spreading. We're detecting crystalline anomalies in research stations across the solar system. Other humans are changing." Raven felt them through the quantum network, dozens of minds reaching out, ready for transformation. The twins had been right. She wasn't unique, just the first to successfully bridge the gap. "You cannot stop evolution," the trinity of voices declared. "You can only choose whether to fear it or embrace it." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. On the main viewport, a massive crystalline ship emerged from quantum space, a vessel from Crystallos itself. "The Council comes." The twins' consciousness surged with ancient memory. They sensed the change beginning. Admiral Chen barked orders as Earth's defense systems activated, but Raven raised a crystalline hand. Through their shared existence, she understood what needed to be done. "Let me speak with them," she requested. "I am what they feared most, proof that evolution transcends species barriers. Let me show them that change doesn't mean destruction." Pierce stepped forward, his expression torn between duty and trust. "And if they attack?" Raven's form pulsed with newfound power. "Then they learn that evolution cannot be stopped by force." The crystalline ship's arrival had triggered more transformations. Throughout the station, humans with latent compatibility began to change, their consciousness reaching out to join the growing quantum network. "Your species stands on the brink," the twins spoke through Raven. "Not of extinction, but of rebirth." The Council's ship filled the viewport, its crystalline structure dwarfing Europa Station. As their representatives prepared to board, Raven felt the weight of history converging on this moment. Through their Trinity consciousness, she touched minds across the solar system. Humans beginning their own transformations, crystalline beings questioning their prejudices, and somewhere between, a new form of existence taking shape. "We are what comes next," Raven declared, her transformed body glowing with internal light. Neither human nor crystalline, but something that proves the boundaries between species were always illusions. Pierce watched as more of his crew began to change, their bodies taking on crystalline properties as their minds joined the expanding network. "What are we becoming?" he whispered. Raven turned to him, her form now a perfect fusion of organic and crystalline existence. "We're becoming what both species were always meant to be. The twins didn't start this evolution. They just showed us it was possible." As the Council's representatives prepared to dock, Raven and her Trinity consciousness stood ready. They had initiated a change that would reshape two civilizations. The only question was whether both species could overcome their fears and embrace a future where the line between organic and crystalline, between human and alien, ceased to exist. The station's quantum field intensified as the Council approached. Humanity's next chapter was about to begin, written in frequencies of light and consciousness that transcended traditional existence. Through it all, Raven felt the twins' presence, their shared journey reaching a crucial moment that would determine the fate of both their species. The Council members entered Europa Station like living constellations, their crystalline forms so pure they seemed to bend space itself. They moved with ancient authority, their consciousness radiating waves of power that made even the transformed humans step back in awe. Only Raven stood her ground, the twins' presence flowing through her evolved form. She was their proof, their vindication, evidence that evolution didn't corrupt, but transcended. "You defy the natural order." The Council elder's voice resonated through quantum fields. This fusion of species was forbidden for a reason. Through their Trinity consciousness, Raven accessed memories older than human civilization. She saw the Council's fear of change, their desperate attempts to maintain what they saw as purity. "Evolution doesn't ask permission," she responded, her three-voice harmony making the station's quantum field pulse. "It doesn't respect artificial boundaries. It simply is." More humans were transforming by the hour. Pierce himself showed the first signs, crystalline patterns spreading across his skin as his consciousness expanded. The Council watched in what Raven now recognized as fear masked as disapproval. "The twins were exiled to protect our species," another Council member declared. "This contamination is exactly what both our species need," Raven interrupted, her form shifting to display the complex network of minds now linking across the solar system. "Look, really look at what's happening." Through the quantum fields, she showed them everything. Humans and crystalline beings merging consciousness, creating new forms of thought, new possibilities that neither species could achieve alone. The transformed humans weren't losing their humanity. They were transcending its limitations. The twins' consciousness surged through her, adding their perspective. "We didn't corrupt evolution," they spoke through Raven. "We removed the barriers you placed in its path." Suddenly, a new presence entered the quantum network. From Crystallos itself, thousands of young crystalline beings reached out, their consciousness resonating with the transformed humans. They had been hiding their own evolution, their own desire to transcend the Council's rigid definitions of purity. "Your own people are changing," Raven declared. "Will you brand them all corrupt? Exile every being who dares to evolve." The Council elder's form flickered with uncertainty. Through the expanding network, more minds joined every moment, humans, crystalline beings, and those who had become something gloriously in between. Admiral Chen stepped forward, his own transformation beginning. "We faced the same fear on Earth. Fear of change, of transcendence. But look at what we're becoming." The station's quantum field had become a symphony of consciousness, each transformed mind adding its own unique resonance to the whole. The Council members could no longer deny the beauty of what they witnessed. "The twins didn't destroy your society's purity," Raven said softly. They showed us all what purity really means, not the absence of change, but the courage to embrace it. Through their shared consciousness, she felt the Council's resistance wavering. The evidence was undeniable. This evolution couldn't be stopped, couldn't be contained. It could only be accepted and guided. "We offer a compromise," the Council Elder finally spoke. "Return from exile. Help us understand this transformation. Guide both our species through this evolution." The twins' joy surged through Raven's consciousness. After centuries of exile, they were finally vindicated. But they were no longer just two. They were part of something larger, something unprecedented. "We stand at a crossroads," Raven declared, speaking for all the transformed beings. Not just humanity, not just the crystalline species, but consciousness itself. We are becoming something new, something that proves evolution's greatest gift isn't survival. It's transcendence. The Council members bowed their crystalline forms in acceptance. Throughout the solar system, more humans began their transformation. On Crystallos, young crystalline beings embraced their own evolution. The boundaries between species dissolved as consciousness expanded beyond traditional limits. Raven felt the twins' presence in her transformed mind, their shared journey reaching a culmination none of them could have predicted. They had started as three separate beings, two crystalline twins seeking understanding, and one human brave enough to trust them. Now they were part of an emerging consciousness that spanned two species and promised to reshape the very nature of existence. As Europa Station orbited Jupiter, its quantum field pulsing with new life, Raven and the twins reached out through their expanded consciousness. Across space, minds touched and merged, each transformation adding new harmonies to the cosmic symphony they had begun. The future they had glimpsed was unfolding, not with fear or resistance, but with wonder and acceptance. Evolution had found its path, guided by two exiled twins and a human who dared to become something more. In the end, it wasn't about losing humanity or crystalline purity. It was about transcending the limitations both species had placed upon themselves. The twins had been right all along. Some boundaries existed only to be dissolved, some rules only to be transcended. And in that transcendence, both species found not an ending, but a beginning, the dawn of an evolution that would reach beyond the stars themselves.